Anyone to just unmute and tell me whether you've seen the slides?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Okay, perfect. So the future of work, we're talking about remote hybrid work models versus human beings. Okay. Okay, let me just read through this. I'm seeing this for the very first time, so don't worry. The future of work is not about location, it's about value. Work has changed faster in 5 years than it was in the previous 30 years. And this is something that I really highlighted when I was giving the opening remarks. Indeed, we can appreciate that the work has really shifted so fast. There's been a systematic change from where it has been up to now, where we are at the moment. That's why I'm saying that the future of work is not, we're no longer talking about the future of work. You know, we are already living in the future. So technology has accelerated every decision making, the automation and access of many things, you know, but burnout, disengagement, and confusions are rising. The question is no longer where do we work? Okay, we're talking about flexibility, versus accountability, technology versus humanity, speed versus meaning. This is still the war between machines and human beings. You know, people are now running away from accountability because of AI, because of technology, you know, people are running away from the really productivity, but rather focusing on technology alone. So it's very important for us to be flexible because these machines or these intelligence systems have come into a bit of flex, you know, give us that loop or that room for us to perform better, you know, as professionals, but also improve on our skills, not really dwelling on them and really giving it as an excuse. You know, technology versus humans is about augmentation. How do we ideate and work together as a new norm? Okay, in a new workspace. You know, technology in its sense has not come into to take over from it, but rather it has come in to enhance, just like I said earlier on. So that is the whole essence of this. It's about augmentation. How do we reason together, creating that safe space where we can be able to thrive and co-create and advance. So speed and machine, how do we design work that works for humans? That's a fundamental question. From location-based value to contribution-based value. We're looking at traditional work models, which is presence and productivity. You know, recently, I think I wrote an article, could have been a month or two back, and I was giving an example of us here at Future Den, you know, that 3/4 of of the people that work for us here at Future Den are actually not in Kampala. Two of them are in Kenya and the rest are up country and all that. But they're able to really deliver on their results. Not necessarily a physical, but they're able to deliver at their own times, you know, at their own times. And the work has to move on. And Future Den has done a great work for the last 1 year than it is for other organizations out there. So that's what we are talking about, you know, the new norm of work. Presence alone does not really reflect on your productivity, but how you're able to utilize technology, you know, autonomy to be able to be productive. We are talking about industrial era thinking, supervision, control hours. And I think also this one, I wrote it in that article that creativity and innovation thrives more in an environment where there is freedom. Okay, if you're home and no one drives you, no one tells you what to do, you know, that's when your productivity and your creativity thrives most. And still that goes back to the statement I think that NASA made last week about lazy people. There is a way they think, you know, faster. So people thinking that being in that environment, that controlled environment where leaders, you know, always tell you what to do. Have you delivered this? Have you delivered that? And all that. That in a way suppresses your creativity. And we need to move away from that, because the next few years, really, we are not going to be fixated on, 8 to 5 job or hourly pay also, but the results, the productivity. Knowledge era shift, output, creativity, and collaboration. We are entering into a phase of collaborating. Our spaces are just going to be for collaboration. How do we ideate? How do we work together to execute a specific program or the idea that we have all come together? That is where we're heading to. No longer as an individual. No, it's going to be a place where we can all come together and collaborate and ideate and put our creativity together alongside machines to be able to, be proactive. Remote work proved many roles that don't require physical presence. That's really very, very true. Even managers can be able to work. I have an HR friend of mine who she has been working for this job, I think, for the last, could have been 5 years or so. And she even doesn't know she has never met her bosses physically. Her bosses are based in the US and she's in Uganda, and she's managing teams across East Africa, East Africa, Kenya, even Uganda, and she does not even meet. She just works from her house. Okay. So remote work has proved so many of these roles that, you just go to office to fill space, So that's where we're heading into at the moment. So hybrid work is now structural reality, not temporal experiment. It's a real deal. We have to embrace it. And I can guarantee you that many of the people I meet one of these days say, I work from home. I do my things from home, and that's it. It's working. Most IT guys, actually, they work with Japanese companies, they work with American companies, but they work from here, Uganda. Recently, my neighbor used to work with a Japanese company. For you, we're going to sleep. For him, is starting to work, because we're ahead of Japan by 6 hours. So for him, usually wakes up as early as 1 a.m. is already awake and is working all through up to around maybe 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. The rest of the evening is just, relaxing. And for you, that is now your maximum hour. So Dr. Natalie here says remote and hybrid, looking at opportunities and risk. Remote work magnifies weak systems. It rewards strong ones. So if you don't have systems and as an organization or as a company, then you're in trouble. You need to start building systems that enhance, flexibility. How are people be able to work even when they're not in office? Okay, because God forbid, and such a situation of COVID-19 comes through, how are you going to really manage it again? So you need to start building systems that will manage your staff, that will manage your workflows, your systems, and accountability within organizations. When we talk about opportunities, access to global talent, if in Uganda you can be able to get a job, just like that example given of a neighbor friend of mine who is in Uganda and is working with a Japanese company. Currently, I have a friend of mine who's working on Future Den website. He's also working with I think a Japanese company as well, but he's here in Uganda. So remote work has really enabled us to access global opportunities. If you go on LinkedIn right now, so many job opportunities available. You can be able to get a job. Reduced overhead costs, increased autonomy. You can be able to decide for yourself what time you're going to sleep, and it reduces burnout, by the way. It reduces burnout in this sense, because you know when to work, you know when to, really have a rest and do some of other things, and maybe even, diversify on some of your income channels. More inclusion, parents, caregivers, global professionals, and many others. These are many opportunities available for really remote and hybrid work systems. Very, very important. What are some of the few challenges? Blurred boundaries. Recently, I think a friend of mine, it could have been Faith or so, sent me a video of, actually she shared that video in our group. And the challenges of working at home, there's a lot of distraction, you're watching a TV, there is a phone, all these challenges are in there, and neighbors are making noise, crying, kids are crying here and then, and really there is a lot of distraction around really remote work as well. Culture delusion, communications breakdown because of network challenges and many other things, loneliness and disengagement. Just some of us who thrive in a certain kind of environment. Many of us may not even really, we are not used to working within ourselves. We need a group to motivate us. We need a group to really give us that push. If you're working in a group, there's what we call eye service. Some of us love working in eye service because you want to please your boss, and therefore you sit back and wait and be able to concentrate. But if you're home, no one is watching you, so you're relaxed. You're doing whatever you want to do at your own time. Accountability gaps. No one will really question you on why you've not done work and all that. Even if they question you, you know that you're going to run away from it at the end of the day. So those are some of the challenges. But however, these challenges does also really overshadow the opportunities that come along with these hybrid work models. We're talking about intelligent work environments that I listed quite earlier on. We're talking about AI, we're talking about LLMs, we're talking about Internet of Things, Web3 innovations, and all that. These are all intelligent work systems that are in play. Intelligent systems don't replace human, they replace repetitive cognitive labor. Oh my God. AI-assisted workflows, automation of repetitive tasks, data-driven performance tracking, real-time collaboration tools, predictive analytics in management, judgment, creativity, empathy is lacking. These are all aspects of intelligent work environments, which I think really work better for us as a generation. Redefining productivity. How then do we redefine productivity alongside this disruption you're talking about? Clarity of priorities. You need to define your priorities. What are your goals? What are your objectives? What do you intend to achieve in the next 5 or so years, or in this particular project that you're undertaking? It's very, very, very important. Intentional system design. These are for organizations, okay? For personal, attributes, we're talking about clarity of priorities, and organization, we're talking about intentional system design. You have to design systems that overshadow all these gaps that you're talking about, that can be able to allow allow environment for creativity and innovation. All definition: hours worked, visible effort, busybodies, or people can be too busy, oh my goodness, and you're not even productive at the same time. So these are all definitions. But what are the new definitions? We're talking about outcomes, we're talking about impact, we're talking about value created at the end of the day, we're talking about problem solved, decisions improved. That is what we are looking at the end of the day. We do not look at, sometimes really as a person, I am more focused on the outcome rather than the process. Yes, the process is very important, but as an individual, for those who have really worked a little bit close to me, I'm a kind of person who is very flexible in terms of work, really. If you bring in an idea, how can you be able to execute that idea? Me, I'm looking at the results. Okay, I don't mind of how about it or whatever, but the issue is that have you given me the results at the end of the day? Are they leading us to where we want to be? This process or whatever does not matter to me. What matters to me are the results at the end of the day. For those who have worked close to me know about that. Is it creating impact? As it solved the problem at the moment? That is what matters in the next few years. And that is why I always emphasize that in the next probably few years, I think the certification bit of it does not matter. And I remember most of the speakers that we have hosted here have always reiterated that it does not matter. What matters is the outcome, the impact, the value created, rather the skills that you have, of course, that you're able to bring in new results. High performance in flexible environments. Oh, wow. The future of employee independent. We've talked about this over and over again. Collaborative. These are attributes even as professionals you need to embody. You need to embrace this, that you have to be collaborative. if you are not collaborative, then you may not be able to thrive in the new work systems or new environment. It's very important for you to be self-driven, and self-driven calls for self-discipline. You have to be disciplined. Know when to wake up, know when to do what, know when to execute, know when to strategize, to plan, and have targeted goals. That's what self-driven people. I personally, I don't work. I don't like working around people whom you have to tell or to remind to do what they're supposed to do. I rarely do that. I give you that space and autonomy to be able to execute roles without being reminded over and over again. And it frustrates. And every supervisor, manager, or any other person will tell you this. People are no longer focused. They get frustrated very fast. If you're to remind someone on what to do, it does not work. It does not work. So as professionals, emerging professionals, we need to embrace the aspect of driven. You have to be self-driven at all times. Digital fluent. Now, digital fluent is, most of us, we don't know how to use social media. I don't know how many of us has ever posted on your social media account in the last 3 or 4 days. Okay, this is very important. I don't know they even have a LinkedIn account. Recently, we had a masterclass that I attended, and I met this wonderful lady from South Africa, South Sudan. And really, we're trying to network and all that. And she was, oh, yeah, this is what I do and all that. And I said, okay, that's amazing. How can we connect? Do you have social media accounts? I say, oh, no, I'm not yet there. I'm just starting. I was like, wow. I mean, I was so shocked. How can you be that productive and you do not have even a single social media account? Not even on TikTok, not even on LinkedIn. I mean, at least start with LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn is a professional space where everybody is ought to be. There are people who have got, I cannot tell you how many people have gotten jobs through LinkedIn. They have not even searched for it. People just look through your profile and they will just send you messages for jobs. So let's get acquainted with social media. At least have a professional account, LinkedIn, Facebook. Of course, Facebook in Uganda is blocked, but we have X. And use your own names, please. Don't use those names. I don't know. I want to mention some of those names because some of you may crucify me here. But use your personal names. If your whatever name you have, use it. Odongo Stephen Paul. That's what I use on LinkedIn because that's my professional space. That's what I use. And you will not get me on TikTok. You may not get me on Instagram. Of course, I'm not acquainted with Instagram, but I use YouTube. I use LinkedIn. So if you go on even Google right now and type my name, you'll be able to get me. And you at least have a glimpse of what I do as a professional. I think a few hours ago, someone sent me, they got my picture and they went to, I think, was it AI, and they input it and it brought all the attributes about me. Where do you think AI gets all that information? From social media spaces. It gave me a lot. It talked about mentorship, personal development, public speaking, and all that, because I am present on social media. So if you are not digitally fluent, you may not be able to thrive in the next phase or in this competitive environment. Emotional intelligence. I mean, Dr. Natalie explains this so well, and I wish she was here. And I know she will come back, and I wish she was here. She explains the aspect of emotional intelligence so well. Last year we had a class, I think was with Elise Agaba. I think it was one of those mentorship class, and she highlighted some of the aspects of the really why emotional intelligence is very, very important. And say, you can be in a work environment, for example, let's say in a bank setting, and you're working, and most of the time they tell you something, you throw tantrums, your attitude is always, you put on a quite, very nasty attitude, and someone talks to you, respond in a very interesting way and all that. But you have all the qualification, you have the skills, you have, you're very productive and all that. But when an opportunity arises within that organization, the ESCOM or the C-suite will go back into the boardroom and have a conversation. And perhaps you have your two in that you two in that who are people are looking at, because the other person is very productive and all that. Now your name is going to come into a conversation and people will start discussing about you, and you people say, oh, this person, yeah, this person is very competent, has all the skills and all that. Then someone will say, okay, but do you think she'll be able to manage that position, given her attitude, given the way she responds to things, the way she does this, does that, and you end up losing that opportunity just because of something slight that perhaps you would have avoided if you had really embraced the aspect of emotional intelligence. So it's very important. So most of us really are not promoted, or we do not progress in our jobs, not simply because we are not qualified, but because we do not really have small things, soft skills, emotional intelligence. So in the next few years, just like I highlighted in a few minutes, just a few minutes ago, that the aspect of certification, degree, or whatever, PhD may not count. What counts are the soft skills. There is clear and efficient communicator, lifelong learning. I wrote an article about this. Please go and reach out, go and look for it in a LinkedIn. Lifelong learning is very, very important. Organized and documented. Document every single thing that you do. That's why that's why you have to get acquainted with social media and all that to document what you do. Open up a YouTube channel and start posting it. You may not do it to monetize it, but you're doing it just to document. Because my mentor, Dr. Dan and Dr. Be always tell me why it's important why impact is very important. And you cannot quantify your impact if you do not document. Okay? Even the Bible says that write your vision so plainly that men shall read or run over it. Okay, so the aspect of documentation and planning is one of it, is very, very important. Okay, yes, let's proceed. Company culture in hybrid environment. Of course, when I was beginning this conversation, I was trying to highlight one of the themes of this conversation was really one to really, have light or really clarity on really organizations, how they can be able to design systems that are able to enable technology, performance around technology, but also humans to thrive. So it's very important as organizations for you to design systems that enable technology, but at the same time, human beings to thrive. So hybrid environments expose leadership gaps. Wow, amazing. If you're a leader who does not know how to engage your staff, how to really, influence them to be able to perform or to execute in a way that you want, then probably you may have struggle in one way or the other. Okay, trust and good communication became very key. How do you trust someone to execute a role that probably a task probably needed to be done in next 2 or 3 hours? I mean, if I sit here, I can think, okay, I've told Faith to write for me a concept note, and yeah, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Oh, I mean, perhaps she's on her phone or she's watching TV, or maybe she has been gone out, to chill with her friends. It becomes interesting, really. But you have to trust that at the end of the day, she has to deliver. So as a leader, you need to be able to trust, but also be able to communicate effectively. One of our leaders at church always tells us that there are two things. Either when you're given a task, there are two things that always come out. Either you have not got it right, okay, or you're assuming. So who is at the fault of the two? If the person has not got it right, whom are you going to blame? Are you going to blame the hearer, or you're going to blame the hearee? I don't know whether it is the word hearee. Okay. So you as a leader, you need to be able to communicate your vision, your task so clearly that the other person is able to get you. Okay, the staff is able to get you. And once they get you, that means they have aligned with what is in your heart. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who wants the work to be done as a manager or a supervisor, as a professional. So organizations, it's very important for you, for us always to develop these few systems, even communication itself. You can develop communication channels and systems within an organization that really communicate so effectively the roles that and the tasks that need to be. Now we have project management techniques, that support this communication clearly. Okay. Psychological safety drives innovation. And I highlighted this a few minutes ago when I was actually beginning this conversation, that really innovation thrives more in a free environment. It thrives more in freedom. Friction does not really support innovation. Define your expectations, really traditions, rituals, and community visibility, and all these attributes we are talking about. It's very important for us to stay away from the traditions. Let's evolve. Evolution is very important. The human advantage, design environments where people thrive. Let me check if Dr. Natalie could have gotten space to come in. Okay. All right. So we can continue. The human advantage, design environments where people thrive. Empathy, moral judgment, creativity, and vision. Design systems that avoid micro managing people. This is a bit interesting because I faced this about 2 years ago in the organization that I was working with. I think was it 2 years ago, and some of my colleagues I think are here, one or two. And we are having a CEO, for example, who, first of all, the respecting structures is very important as an organization. If you have a manager, as a CEO, of course, you have to be in touch with all your employees, but you cannot micromanage. You cannot manage people from the lower level. You have to follow the channel. Okay. If you have an HR, there's no way as a CEO to do recruiting or to go down to the clerk down there and start assigning tasks and managing that person, yet you have the supervisor in that place. In there, you're sabotaging creativity, trust, you're eroding trust, and the whole environment becomes distorted. And you find that you struggle with productivity. Okay. So when I was this organization, there was a lot of the TAT was not really met. You find that you give tasks and people spend days or something without it, and the attitude already was affected. People had a fixed mindset, and you're trying to see how you can drive the organization, but everyone is stuck. Why? Because even if you try, you're already up there. Okay. Or the CEO himself comes down and does things so it's very important for us to avoid micromanaging people. Let's respect systems and structures. If you want to thrive as an organization, if you want to thrive as a company, let's build that. Let's build that the systems that enable people to work within the design structure. Report to this person, report to that, report to that. Okay, when you're having meetings, you can really have a conversation with these people, but not really in terms of accountability and others. Measure outcomes, not activity. And I gave you an example of how that can be done. Really, we look at the outcomes, the results at the end of the day, not really the activity. I mean, I can give an example. There are people who love working in a noisy place. Okay. And for you to think that maybe someone is, just there playing music and all that, but it's working. So you're going to make noise and all that. For you, always listening music, you're always doing that, and that, yet the person is actually working. So at the end of the day, someone is going to produce results, and you get it. So it's very important for us to really look at the focus so much on outcomes, but not activity. Balance flexibility and accountability. I think I've explained that. Build for the future. The future is now. The future is not tomorrow. And I think I posted that on my LinkedIn. It's not tech versus people. It is tech serving people. Rightly stated. So these are the fundamental questions that you need to ask as an organization. Is your organization measuring the right things? Are your systems built for control or for clarity? Are you preparing yourself for intelligent environments? I think yesterday there was a show at Manifest TV, and they hosted one of the people I really respect, Mr. Sudesh, and he was talking about pressure, and he said that there is a pressure that comes from really inside, okay, and there is that healthy pressure. But I can tell you that systems itself can cause pressure. For example, bureaucratic systems. Now, you're having a lot of bureaucracy in the system, and there is a pressure coming from the other side that you're not able to execute your role, but you're having what? Bureaucracy in place. So bureaucracy is blocking the whole process of execution, and the pressure is on. So the systems, this bureaucratic systems or whatever systems that you've built, are they to control people, to keep them bound forever, or to keep them from really not performing, or you think that they're performing yet they're actually not performing just because you want them to be around or to report to work every single day? But or are they really, systems that are providing clarity, are providing direction for people to be able to execute their role in autonomy? So this is a very fundamental question. How are you preparing yourself for intelligent environment? I mean, are your systems built for control, not or for clarity? What uniquely human skill are you strengthening? Identify your niche. Answer some of those questions. Because some of those questions sometimes even checks in our vision, checks on our mission, our objectives and goal in life. Okay, even our systems, how we design them, that which skill exactly are you trying to strengthen within on an organization. So it comes into that, the systems, the vision, the mission, and the structures within our organizations. Even as an individual, it comes in play. Apostle Chris always said that what you feed grows and what you starve dies. The workplaces of the future will not succeed on technology alone, but on how intentionally leaders design systems. The workplaces of the future will not succeed on technology alone, but on how intentionally leaders design systems, cultures, and experiences that allow people to thrive. What a quote. You need to take that down. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a presentation about work, and I believe it has done a lot, both on an individual basis. It has given us practical guidance, but also as organizations, how do you design systems and these workplaces that enable performance, but also human beings to thrive. But also as human beings, what are some of the few attributes that we need to embody and really cultivate to ensure that we are able to thrive in this competitive environment